Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. On tonight's agenda, we have discussion on the 2021 road paving projects, discussion about the deliberative session, and then old and new business. Just remind everyone that we have voting on March 9th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are a handful of warrant articles on there that we encourage you to read and become familiar with and be ready to vote. Any other?
Candidates night, February 23rd at 6 p.m., I believe.
Any updates?
No.
Okay. Discussion on 2021 road paving projects. I believe I had asked to have that put on there. It was
Yes.
what we had discussed also at the deliberative session. Whereas if the top coat on Collins Road doesn't get applied in 21 and we let it winter over, there would be monies left over, and we had talked about having Malthouse Road repulverized and paved with a binder, and Peter had provided the costs for topping Collins Road and for doing Malthouse, and doing Malthouse came in less than what topping Collins was this year. So
Yeah, we have updated numbers. I guess I have some questions on it. So it's in tab 1. I don't know if you want. So he added. So I just want to make sure that we do this in the order, like that we try our best to prioritize so that we don't end up running out of money on.
yeah.
But on top of that, so we come in at 561 and some change, and then he added Porter base and top, which brings us to 615.
Mm-hmm.
So my two questions on that are, why Porter and not Playground? Traffic-wise, I think Playground gets more traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And why base and top and not just base?
In my opinion, the first question is a good question. If I were to make a recommendation on Playground, if you're going to do Playground, I would recommend that you do Playground and Laurel. Well, if you have
it loops.
equipment there,
It loops around.
it
Yeah.
loops
Yeah,
around
yeah.
there, that you'd be, the best bang for the buck. Porter Hill, I'll be honest with you, I walked it, driven it. I don't think it's in bad shape, other than now where they had to open the road to fix the drainage there, and they've patched it.
Right.
But I think that there would have been other roads, in my opinion, on priority because they're in worse condition than Porter Hill.
Yeah, and to me, I think Playground Road's in a much worse condition than Porter Hill is, except for, like you said, that one piece.
Yeah, yeah.
On Porter Hill. But so I mean, that'd be my recommendation, is that if we look at doing Playground, and if we did, like you said, Playground and Laurel, and if we can't do all, like, again, I don't understand why that's the only one we're doing base and top, but if we could do base on Playground and Laurel, to me that makes more sense than doing Porter. But that's just my opinion.
I think the reason why he was doing base and top, it's such a short road,
stretch.
you don't remobilize for doing that short stretch, but
Okay.
I don't know if you want to look at it, but I mean, to me, Porter Hill is in
I drive it every.
decent shape.
I drive it pretty much every week. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then did you want to put these in like in order? 'Cause
Yeah.
like we had started putting them in order.
Yeah, I would have done, I thought what we had was Collins Road,
Oh,
Hubbard Pond was one.
Collins is 2.
Road was 2.
Stoll is 3.
Uh,
Mountain is 4, and Malthouse is 5.
4.
Yep.
5, and then 6
And then-
would be playground
Yeah,
and Laurel.
and again, I would look at that as if we have the money left. I mean, I know he has to do culverts or whatever, but if he does the culverts, then they're ready for the next year anyway, so.
I'm just wondering, I agree with playground. I'd probably say let's reconsider that. And the reason being is strictly for cost and efficiency. Almost if you're gonna start doing these single roads, is do it when we have the funds that you could do Kangas, Playground, Laurel, Beechwood, the
All in
ones
the
that are
same
all in
area.
that area. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, from a cost-effective point,
Yeah,
trying to hit them all.
yeah, in all reality, but Porter Hill's really the same thing, it's a one-shot.
Oh, Porter Hill, that would have been like the last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I know he had on there at one time, or maybe the road committee had, Academy. But again,
Yeah.
try and do them while you're all in that area.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Academy and Porter Hill could
Right.
be,
Done together or
Yeah.
something, so. I'm fine, I just, if, you know, it just seemed to me, like I said, if we're looking at roads that get the most traffic, to me, I look at it as playground gets way more use than, and it would give us the opportunity, if we so wanted to, is to widen that shoulder.
Mhm.
You know, we're always talking about parking or whatever else there. Would it give us the opportunity to pave up onto that? Can we pave up closer to the fence or something to widen the road for parking? Just a thought, I'm just,
yeah. I know on one side you have
yeah, there's houses,
you got the swale.
okay.
Yeah, like down
And-
at the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and on the left hand, the playground side, it's really, cars I think are usually parked half on the road and half off the road. I don't know that I'd wanna pave right up to that fence.
Yeah. But it's a good idea.
yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, just to make it so that
right, I mean, that way if they're parking, get them off the road, you know, are they trying to save, oh, don't park all the way on the grass, you'll kill it, well, just pave over it then, you know?
mhm.
Well,
And make it parallel parking, paint it, whole deal, these are the parking spots.
Yeah, but I think the thought process there is if you're looking at creating parking, we should come up with a plan to lay out the park itself for those areas that people park haphazardly and you get fewer parking spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got an upper and lower
Oh, yeah,
parking
yeah.
lot there. Yeah.
But it's just
Yeah, the one up by the skate park, people just park however they want.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if you had that done right, that would minimize probably the on-road parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that would make it a lot safer too.
Yeah.
So I'm good with whatever recommendation you guys have on that last bit of money if we use it.
Well, what I was gonna try and do was just find that spreadsheet on.
Yeah, to see what the length of roads
and-
are.
And just see if there are other roads we wanted to consider.
I guess if we're going down to Stoll, like playground, it's right in that vicinity. Like they'd be going by.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far off the track if you're going to Stoll.
And that'd give us that like one hit before we start in that whole area.
Yeah.
These are the roads that we have not done yet. I'm just going alphabetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Academy, Andrew Drive, the second part of Ashlon Farm Road, Beechwood, Boynton Hill, okay, that's a dirt road, Boynton dirt. Chapman, dirt, Chapman. Courier Road is a dirt road. Finn Hill Road, which I think is, no, that's asphalt. The end of Green Farm. Hackler Drive, Hildreth Place, Kangas, Kenny, what's Carolina has been renamed to Maplewood, and that's dirt. And then we've got Kivula, Cole, Laurel, Leal, Lock Road, Malt House we talked about. The other one that Peter keeps bringing up that you might consider is Mason Road.
Yeah,
He's saying that one needs it. I have not gone down it.
I know years ago it needed help because I think the other half, Marcel, got done a couple years ago, but I don't think Mason. Like Mason did their half of the dirt, the paved part, because they have part of it dirt, part of it paved,
Okay,
and then we
yeah.
take over paved.
Yeah.
So yeah, that wouldn't
So
wouldn't
that
make sense.
Would if you had the money, I'm saying it's isolated anyhow. I would do that probably before doing playground, trying to hit playground and all of those at one time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What's the other one here? Matson Road. Mountain View, we spoke about. Nashua Road, Mimi Road, Nora Court. These are dirt. Old Range, Old Tenny, Old Wilton. And Old Wilton you could do when you do that grouping going down Beechwood. What we got here? Perry Road has been done. Next one down, Philmont. Pine is dirt, playground. Poor Farm we've spoken about, Porter Hill. And then we've got Rumrill, which is dirt. South Road is unpaved. Spindleback Road, Stone Ridge, and then Stoll. Timber Top. The other part of Timber Top, but I'm assuming we're not doing that, which goes to the ridge line.
Right.
Villa Road, Walsh Road, West Binney, Willett Farm, which is dirt, Wilson Hill, which is dirt, Wyman Road, which is dirt. So, that's it. Out of those that we have left, I think, my recommendation would be try and hit Mason, and then try and hit the ones down.
Yeah.
I like
All
that.
in
I
one.
like Mason too.
Yeah, I think it makes sense once you to get them all. If you're going to have the equipment in that area, knock them all out at
Yeah.
once. So yeah, see if and I'm sure the measurement for Mason can't be that different than Porter Hill.
I wouldn't, well, I haven't been down Mason in a while. I thought that was a fairly,
Yeah, it's decent. But again, if we're
Long
only depends on whether we're topping and basing or just
Yeah.
topping. So
yeah.
or basing.
I-
So
Well, since we're on roads too, something that's come up at the planning board, like in regards to the driveway regulations, has been some of the improvements that the town's made on the main roads,
Mhm.
creating runoff issues for the private property owners, like down into their driveways. I don't know if, like, we raise the road base and then it creates washout issues. So the point was made that it's kind of hypocritical to have a driveway regulation put in place so that the private driveways don't impact the major roadway when the major roadway reconstructions are negatively impacting.
Did they give an example?
I know there's one down off of Timber Top.
that was, somebody came in, if it's the one, I'm gonna let you.
Well,
keep-
there's a couple complaints that I've heard from off down on Timber Top,
Mhm.
and then the other gentleman that brought it up, I can't remember what road that he's off, but it was a whole separate issue, but he was having the same type
Yeah.
of,
But again, I mean, that's one of the things that if we bring the roads up to standard, unfortunately, if someone put in a driveway while the road was either substandard, having sunk, or was dirt, that's it's unfortunate.
hmm,
But we can't go around, we can't build up people's private driveways.
And that was an example of someone that had come in and said that with their car, it was difficult for them to come up their driveway and get onto Timber Top.
yeah, so that, yeah.
Well, you know, when you looked at, you are adding 3 inches to the height of the road. And when we went out and we look at how steep their driveway is, they would have had the problem the entire time,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and we had a similar complaint where we had someone say that the culverts we have put in negatively affected their property. But the problem is the culverts that were put in, that were replaced. So you put in a culvert in the road, it's 20 years, you have pine needles and dirt from a dirt road being plowed year after year after year for 20 plus years, and mulch having fallen and everything. Well, the culvert was now buried. It
Yeah.
was below grade, and it's not supposed to be. It was supposed to be above grade so that it actually drained out. So when they fixed it, they fixed the culvert. And then there was a complaint about, well, you washed out. Well, yes, it affected your property, but we didn't do anything illegally. We actually did what we have to do to put the culvert back at its proper level, because it had sunk and had been filled up with runoff onto their property. So it's one of those things. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's one of the things I complained several years ago when Chief Chamberlain was also the road agent for a short period of time. He added 18 inches of fill to Hubbard Pond and Timber Top.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was 18 inches now that the road used to meet my driveway. Now it was 18 inches above my driveway, to the point where I got a notice from the post office that I had to raise my mailbox by 18 inches
Yeah,
because the road was now too high. Well, it was right. It was high.
yeah,
But I can't come to the town and go, come fill my driveway in.
mhm.
They added 18 inches so that we actually had, so that the road was shaped properly. It was, everything was good, and we had the proper, or at the time, runoff and ditches and the whole deal. But I would come out of my driveway in the wintertime, or onto my driveway in the wintertime, and I'd come off the road, and my tires wouldn't touch the ground.
Yeah, yeah,
Because all of a sudden, I had 18 inches of snow that I used to not have, because there was a place for that to get plowed into.
yeah.
And same thing, I mean, last year I showed Dave pictures of before Hubbard Pond was paved, I showed pictures of my driveway, same thing. It came off the road directly into my driveway, washed my driveway out. I had to fill my own driveway.
Mhm.
I understand their feelings, but it's a matter of, we can't build a road substandard so that it meets your driveway that's been there for 15 years to a substandard road grade.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I understand what they're saying. It's an inconvenience, but at the same point, that's
And when you look at the change in grade, it's minimal. Most of the roads, when they get rebuilt, they get repulverized
mhm.
and graded and compacted. They'll try and shape it so that the drainage goes to the swale. But it's not like you're adding a foot of material or taking a foot of material out. Although now when we do Collins Road though, I think there are gonna be areas where they are adding material
Yeah,
because it's like in a valley.
yeah.
yeah. So I wonder if there's a way to notice the areas, like just to let them know ahead of time. Like just to get the information out there ahead so that it's not they wake up one morning and then like
Oh,
there's
every-
18 inches there and
No, I
what are
mean,
they supposed
everyone,
to do?
yeah, I mean, put it this way, when I had it, it was like,
Yeah,
you know, all of a sudden they started dumping dirt, but I mean, when we're going in and paving a road,
yeah,
it's not a surprise.
yeah.
I mean, we
no,
talk about it, we give notices, the police put out notices so that they know, hey, your road's probably gonna be blocked.
So the property owners do get noticed already, like.
Not
ahead of-
individually.
Not individually,
Not
but it's
individually, but I mean,
public
what do you-
notice.
Okay,
I don't know how you're gonna know, I think what you're asking is to notice them on what the difference in elevation's gonna be at that point.
well, not even what the exact elevation, but that it may create this scenario
Oh.
and you're gonna be responsible for fixing it because, you know, it makes sense, like, we're improving the major roadway and they have to bring it up to standard, like you said, like,
Right.
that all makes sense. So, but just getting that information out ahead of a project so that
Yeah.
we don't have like the irritation afterwards.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those, I mean, for the most part, you know, they go back and they do, you know, X number of inches
Mm.
off the road into the driveways if they're there, you know. So, I mean, that could be their complaint is like, yeah, I mean, it used to meet the road. Now the road's a little higher and you cove down into you put a lip that goes off the road directly into so that if there's water runoff, yeah, it's going to go directly down their driveway because otherwise, if they didn't do that, you'd have a hole in between and it would wash out.
Yeah,
So they go back and they put, you know, they patch in from the road onto all the driveways,
yeah,
you know, by 3, 6, 8 inches, whatever it is, whatever's in the contract.
yeah,
But I mean, as far as them knowing when it's happening, I know on my road, the signs went up probably 2+ weeks before the first piece of equipment went in to even start doing culverts.
yeah,
And then they stayed up there until they were done paving. So it's, you know that they're coming.
yeah, yeah,
So,
alright,
and like I said, you're going to see a bigger difference on dirt road to paved road than you are just paved road to paved road.
yeah,
So a lot of the complaints you're getting, I would assume, are when we did timber top, and so we put the first coat down. So there was no initial raise in
Yeah.
it, or if it was minimal. But then the next year we went and we put the top coat on, and yeah, some of them it did affect it, or there was a change.
You're
yeah,
only talking a change of 2 inches.
Right.
That's why, if you look at it in perspective and you say, if you had 2 inches and somebody's coming out of a driveway, how can that impact their ingress and egress?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there were a couple where, I mean, I took pictures and I used a pen as a guide so you could, you know, everyone kind of sees what a standard pen. So you could see where some of it was higher, some of it was lower. But then it was shortly after that. They hadn't even done the aprons yet. So then they went back and they did the aprons, and we haven't heard much. I mean,
Okay.
we haven't heard people come back except, yeah, we did have some people that said it was tough getting out because they had hard pack there. And when they had to dig it out, they had to dig out that hard pack that went onto the road.
yeah,
So they dug it out and then they replaced it with, you know, hard pack again as best they could. But you've got, you know, 20+ years of hard pack built up, and now you dig it out and put fresh. It's going to settle, and you know, you go by, you come up with your plow, whatever, you're going to dig it up.
yeah,
But I mean, it's like I said, I've lived the inconvenience, so I understand. But at the same point, I mean, the best I did is I came and I spoke with the town and I got a deal on buying a piece of culvert pipe so I could replace my driveway.
mhm,
But we had to do the work ourselves.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
But I understand their frustration.
yeah, yeah,
So on the list of priorities, Mason is gonna be number 6 now?
Yes, I think that would be the way to go.
That's from the Mason town line to the,
To Lower Ashby Road. half a mile. Cause it looks like we did, it wouldn't even be to
Because we did,
Ashby Road, it looks like we've done, from 149 Mason Road to Ashby Road already. And then from Mason Town line to what's described as an end or a circle hasn't been done, and that's just over a half a mile. Looking Porter Hill, can't even be a quarter of a mile if I were to guess. Yeah, 0.3, so, if he was, doing top and binder, you have definitely gotta be able to do just binder on Mason Road for the same cost.
Yep.
awesome.
Any further discussion on roads?
Nope.
Deliberative session debrief? Anything on your list for that?
Nope, I just wanted to touch base to see, you know, what your thoughts were, what came out of that. It was a pretty quiet, deliberative session.
Yeah, it was
But,
unfortunate that we had such a low turnout. I thought more people were going to participate via Zoom.
Yeah, I thought we'd get a few more, you know.
Yeah.
What was the Zoom?
I think we had a steady 3, and then we had a couple that went in and out a couple times. It topped out, I think, 5 and us.
Yeah.
It topped out, but most of it was, I think there were only like 3 people that were consistently on there.
Mhm. And then even in attendance, was it probably, I didn't
30.
check for it.
30 tops, and
And that
I think
included
that-
people on stage.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you were to take out officials and committee members and whatnot, I think you might have had 10.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Like I said, the one piece is, you know, in the newspaper today, you know, some inaccurate numbers, but
I didn't get to read it. What were they mentioning?
they said that we had $84,000 increase was police budget, and actually she said it was police salaries, and that's incorrect.
Yeah.
The salary line for this year only went up by 23,000, and the entire police budget this year only went up by 75,000 total. So, that's a false news.
I'm wondering where she got that, or whoever wrote
Yeah,
it.
it was
got that.
Ashley. You know, she made it up. Well, I mean, it's.
I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she misinterpreted it some point.
Well, I mean, you can misinterpret all you want. I mean, the numbers are there that are available. All she had to do was ask,
Yeah,
and you made it up because the number 84,000 doesn't even fit.
does it exist anywhere?
Doesn't exist anywhere because it's 75 in salaries, or 75 in the total budget and 23 in salary line this year. So, you know, yeah, there are other lines associated with that. Like I said, I mean, we're stuck. I mean, our insurances went up. We have to pay that.
Retirement.
Retirement is going up. We have to pay that. Yes, there are things associated with salaries, but it's not. We didn't increase police salaries by $84,000.
That's why I stopped reading that. I should just read it so you dispute it, right?
Well, it's just so when people ask you and they go, well, where'd you get that information? Oh, I got it from the newspaper. Well, there you go.
What's the value, do you think, to, and I don't even know if the bills are before the legislature now or how they're going about it, but having the state reps in here to give the opinion of the town's position regarding the passing of the buck to the town on
Retirement?
Supporting of the previous retirement part. Now with the schools, that was the other part.
Yeah.
Even though we're not the
We're not
school,
part-
but I mean, just to
Yeah,
let
it's
them
still
know.
our taxpayers. Well, it's
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And I mean, now you've got HB 20 back up Edelbut or whatever, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Edelboot, he's pushing for HB 20. HB 20 is the voucher system. So every person that decides to homeschool or send their child to a private or parochial school gets $4,100. So that's, again, now you look, so like this year they're saying that, you know, they're short funding because of 149 kids. Okay? That includes homeschool, people that are homeschooling stuff. Well, now if you suddenly tell mom and dad, you can stay home, or you can keep your kid homeschool, and we're gonna give you $4,100,
Yeah.
you know, how many of them are gonna go through the hassle of, you know, everything else? So HB 20 is another one that, I mean, would be detrimental to the school and the town. Because again, I mean, there's certain things you have to maintain to operate a school district. And I understand that. And there's certain things that you don't have to keep. But, you know, we're looking right now, you know, if people don't understand that even in a default budget, your portion of the school tax is going to go up next year. Well, imagine that happening forever. You know, that you hit that level and they're gonna go, well, we need to have this minimum set of standards in order to operate a school district, so we're not cutting the budget below this dollar amount. And your taxes remain there. Because I said, you know, how many people go and knock on the SAU office door and give them a ration's worth when their taxes go up? They don't. But they'll come here and they'll write letters to the editor about town taxes, my taxes are up, and they'll complain and everything else. And plain simple fact is, you know, it's your municipal tax is minimal to your tax bill every year.
Well, let's look at it this way. How many kids would you say there are in New Ipswich? Rough number. 1,200?
Yes.
Say
12.
4, 4, and 4?
Yep.
And if somebody's offering 4,900, I say you should offer them 10,000. Because it'd come out less than a $10 million bill, and we've got a $19 million bill. You know?
Yeah.
Send everybody to a private school.
Yep. Yeah, close it down.
Yeah. I mean, if they're getting the same quality education, better.
Right.
Uh,
And I'm not saying they are, but it's a matter,
Yeah.
like you said, yeah, it would actually cost us less to just privatize the school system.
or tuition them.
Or tuition, yeah, however, you know.
Yeah. I think that, and I'm not versed enough on that school budget, but what the transportation charge is, whether or not, if you were to tuition them out, whether you need to provide transportation at that point, whether it's in the numbers or not. But, you know, when you look at where we are and the state keeps, from the town's perspective, as far as the retirement, passing it down, and now I'm hearing on the school that the numbers are gonna go down, we need to pick it up. Well, if that process continues, and we don't speak up about it, I think it just continues.
No,
Yeah.
I
Well,
agree.
and it's crushing, especially for our community where we, you know, try to keep the taxes low.
Mm.
You know, do our due diligence to do such, and then everything around us is driving it up.
So, is it worth bringing them in to at least speak with them and let them,
I think it'd be worth it if we could get them in before, you know. Couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
did you try making those arrangements
Yeah, sure, when would you like them in?
next week?
Well, it's fresh.
Yeah. So either the 16th or the 2nd.
This month's fine by
I
me.
know.
Yeah, I mean, this is my fastest year yet. Since joining this, it's like when you have that every single week. Yeah. There's no lull.
Yeah.
Just keeps on chugging.
Any other action items as a result of the deliberative session that you need me to follow up on?
No. David did respond to, Chief Lund though,
Yeah, I
on
saw
the,
that.
that it did not change.
Yeah,
In that warrant article, the name of that fund didn't change, so that answered that question for us.
and in looking that up just on the town warrant, and in another article I had read from the LGC, I guess back in '95, there was, because of the intermingling of the terms, and now they just refer to them as reserve funds, whether it's a capital reserve or an expendable capital reserve, they just call it a reserve fund.
Yeah, and then we just have to know which ones are expendable.
Yeah, yeah. So. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Nope, I just wanted to make sure that if something came out of that, that you needed me to, follow up on, or.
I was thinking more of how to get more people there. I don't know if you,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
Other than
weather,
coffee and
you know,
donuts.
changing the night because of the weather, I'm sure didn't help attendance either, but
yeah,
not much we could do about that.
It's funny, you make the change because you want people to be able to attend, and then
Yeah.
it's still,
Yeah, but.
Well,
go-
Friday night's not the best night of the week to get people
Yeah.
out to town, function versus.
That was
something
moved
else.
an hour too, went from 6 to 7.
yeah.
oh, the new business?
Yeah, under old and new business, Carleen, we have 4 accounts that we're not using any longer. This is part of the consolidation that Linda did when she was here. But we are being charged a fee for just maintaining those accounts, you know, a small fee. So Carleen and I got together and we just like to close them out,
Yeah.
but she wanted to get your blessing before doing it.
What were the accounts for previously?
Oh, honestly, off the top of my
Okay.
head, I couldn't tell you, but, you know, there were a lot of things that ended up getting combined right into the general fund, account. And, yeah, they just weren't necessary. And to be spending, you know, a small fee every month for each of those accounts just seems ridiculous, cause we'll probably never use those accounts again.
Could we just see a list of them from her?
Uh,
Just to see it, you know?
Yeah, I can get that for you.
I'd be fine with closing them if we need
Yeah,
them.
if
If we
we're
need
not
them
using-
again, you reopen them,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because yeah.
the fewer accounts, it's easier to track and monitor than it is if you have,
Yeah.
I would be curious though,
Just which
what
ones.
they were set up for.
Yeah, what they were set up
Yeah.
for, but if we're not using them,
Okay,
Uh, Can I interrupt for one
Sure.
second? One of the things that I meant to look at that we discussed last year when we had the warrant article to rename the 250th anniversary
Mhm.
to another name, which I forgot what it was, enhancement or whatever it was. I recall on the balance sheet that we received from the trustees, that account had only a couple of dollars in it,
Yeah.
$9.46.
exactly. Where's the money?
The
The
other
fund was
money,
only supposed to have been, the name is what was supposed to have been changed.
I think we had to,
no, it was closed, whatever that balance was,
Mm-hmm.
that was in that account, I think the way the article was, it got rolled into the general fund.
because because we had to, I think it was, because we would have, when we went to the LGC or whatever to look at it, it was a one warrant article to close it, another warrant article to open it, and what it could be used for, and so I don't, if I remember right, I think it was just closed.
On the warrant article, it explicitly said,
No, this wouldn't be it. This is 20.
now unless that got
one
amended
is that?
somewhere that I
19.
didn't pick it up.
Was it last year?
Yeah. because it would have been in the warrants that were proposed. Yeah, no. To see if the town will vote to dissolve the 250th Celebration Expendable Trust and transfer the remaining balance into the general fund.
Was that an amended one? 'Cause
No, I know we originally talked about that's what we wanted to do, but the LGC said we couldn't. It would have been two separate warrant articles. Then if one gets voted down and one gets approved, we either have a fund with no money in it or money with no fund.
So that wouldn't have been something that was amended, 'cause some,
No, it was not. It wasn't amended.
okay.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we wanted to do it that way, and then we were advised not to.
I'm saying, I know I read it in here, that's why.
Yeah. No, like I said, I know it was what we wanted to do, because that's we talked about. We'd been talking about that since Jay was on the board, because the year before it actually got voted down. So then we put it back on again.
Well, I'm looking here, Article 15, change the purpose of the 250th celebration,
That was the year before.
2018.
Well, it would have been the 2019 article, and it got voted down. So it was the 18
Well, the
town.
one that I'm looking at now is the 2018 annual report.
Right, so that would have been the warrants for 2019, and it got voted down.
Okay,
So then on the 2020 warrants, we just changed it to just dissolve.
okay, all right. Keep going.
Okay. All right, on the, just wanted, I talked to David about this already, but just to give you, you two the update on what's happened at the salt shed is, unfortunately, we have snow on the ground now, but we're waiting to have them come out and work with Peter to mark where the foundation needs to go. You probably recall in last week's manifest, we bought the blocks. So the blocks are already back here for the foundation, but we just have to firm up with Eagle Associates what the dimensions are gonna be and where they wanna set them. So I have them coordinating directly with Peter to make that happen, so that we can get going on that as soon as the weather breaks here. They did already put their performance bond in place. You know, they signed off on the contract and you know, the bid award, the notice of bid award, so, you know, I've been working with them on, behind the scenes on a few, mostly paperwork issues to, tighten up the contract and get going. And, you know, they're anxious to move forward, so hopefully we'll, see some activity, hopefully before the end of March.
Cool.
Awesome, thank you.
Next thing I have down there is discontinuing paying the ballot clerk. So Deb Harity from Supervisors of the Checklist approached me with the thought that, you know, what happens is because the ballot clerks are only utilized here and there as we have election cycles. Yeah, she was having some issues with a lot of the time cards for the ballot clerks coming in, you know, late, et cetera, well beyond the November election. And she was thinking that we paid them such a small amount, whether it made sense just to not pay them at all and just have them volunteer. I talked to the moderator about this as well, and, you know, Deb's just taking over the responsibility supervising the supervisors. And I think Bob and I felt that maybe we should just come up with a better process for them so that, maybe we bring a stack of time cards,
Yeah.
to the polls, so when they're done at the end of the night, they can fill them out and sign them, and we can get them in and get them processed right away, so things aren't lingering literally for months and having people turning in time cards, 60 days after the fact, and not being sure whether one fell through the cracks or something like that. Not to mention it makes it difficult for us because you have an election in 1 year, but if we're not getting the time card early enough into the new year, then it's gonna go against the next year's budget. So I think, personally, I'd be for continuing to pay them, and we just need to tighten up the process in my mind, to make it a little easier for them to get their time cards in and just kind of make that happen.
I guess I'm a little surprised that wasn't already done. I would have thought, I mean, like if you work somewhere, when you show up to work, you clock in, when you leave work, you clock out, unless you're salaried, and then it doesn't matter.
Right.
But, so I'm a little surprised that that wasn't how it's being done.
Do you know approximately how many ballot clerks we have?
Off the top of my head, I want to say around 20.
Well, we got, what, 3 tables or 4 tables right now?
There were 3 last time.
And there's,
3 plus the voter registration,
yeah, but that's, the ballot clerks, I think, are just the tables, right?
just the tables.
So that's 6 people every time, and I think they do 4-hour shifts.
That's why I'm wondering, would you not, maybe just to make it simpler, is just pay a set stipend for, I guess if somebody's working 8 and somebody works 4,
Right.
yeah.
But, yeah, I would just say, yeah, have
A
them
better
fill the sheet out,
process.
yeah. When they show up, before they go over to the table, they at least fill out the,
Yeah.
they show up at this time and they're supposed to leave at this time, and, or, I mean, they,
And if they don't fill it out, it's a volunteer position.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention to see what your thoughts were on it as
Yeah.
well.
because even there, it's just, like for something like that, I have forms that I have for work, because we use an electronic clock out. We have forms that if someone doesn't clock out, we, as a supervisor, change it, and then we fill out a form. So we could even do something like that. So if they do, hey, they showed up, they didn't fill out their card, the supervisor, the checklist, or the moderator fills it out, signs it, and we attach that, hey, this was filled out by the moderator. But yeah, at the end of the night, just get them done and get them on that next cycle of checks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, but I think we should continue to pay them.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I understand it's only a few times, but, I mean, I think,
So
maybe
who
it's,
would handle that?
Well, it would be whoever, you know,
whoever the supervisor, whoever's in charge over at that other table, whoever it is that
Another
knows.
list,
Yeah,
another
who's
checklist.
supposed, yeah. Well, whoever had, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure someone's
Because they
got a
must know
schedule.
who's supposed to come in.
Well, would
Right.
Debbie handle that?
well, it really comes under the supervisors. I mean, I guess you could give the responsibility or delegate it to the town clerk if you wanted to, if she has to.
Oh, no,
do
I'm
it.
sorry. I was talking Debbie
Oh,
Hagley.
Debbie, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong, get too many
Yeah,
Debbies.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, no, I think it's a supervisor of the checklist
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
that handles that, schedules and all
Yeah.
that. So I think between her and the moderator, they would handle that for the election day.
so, all right, so we'll just try to come up with a clean process to get rid of the hiccups and that, so.
Because they must, like you said, they must have a list of who's on, and then
Right,
it's
yeah.
just another checkbox, like time card.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll work on that, for the upcoming,
This sounds that simple.
I know, it's like,
well, yeah,
like I said, I was like, that's not how they're doing it? I mean, it's just, like I
Yeah.
said, you show up to work, in the old day, you chkonk, you left, chkonk, and you walk out. Now it's, whether it's a piece of paper you sign or whatever, but it's one of those things, hey, before you start working, you have to clock in, because if you get hurt, I need to have, otherwise I'm dragging you outside and say it happened next door.
well, we'll see if we can fix it for the March 9th, election.
That'd be awesome.
The other one is the response to the planning board. I sent that out to you folks last week. You had a chance to read it. I just wanted to put it in here to make sure you didn't wanna make any changes. If you don't, I'll print out a clean copy of that without the watermark on it, and I can have you sign it tonight,
Yeah.
unless you wanna make edits.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
It's all
Is that
factual.
the one
Yeah.
that is that the one we spoke about
Yes,
last week before the?
yep.
I don't 100% agree with it, but I was trying to come up with something like, what do you write on the line, like the
Well,
signature line?
That's why I'm glad you brought that up, Scott, cause I,
Yeah.
do remember reading this last week, and I said, I think I would've tried to word it, to the point that the hiring and firing of employees is the responsibility of the board, and we have filled that position already. And the planning board doesn't have the authority to start expending monies on a line item that doesn't exist. Because I can't imagine by any stretch how that would fall under a consultant, line item.
Well, it isn't, I mean, in these days, quite honestly, it's hard to pay anybody as a consultant without having a LLC, a tax ID number, to make them a 1099 type of employee. And the IRS has made consultancy very difficult. And I'm not sure how the auditors would feel if we were trying to pay a W-2 employee out of a consulting line item. I may get some advice on that when I talk to them tomorrow, because I have to call them on another item. But, so those are some of the real, kind of the back, the way the sausage is made concerns
Mhm.
with the accounting as well, so. So if there's any specific wording that you're looking to change, I can edit it right now and print it out and have you sign it.
I know it may seem petty, but on the last line of the first paragraph, she is still available. I would say she is still able to provide. Meaning, I wouldn't put her out there
Okay,
discretion, but if she so chooses to, that is fine. So she's able to. We're not saying you can't give advice to a junior employee of the town office.
well, and John and I had a phone discussion at the end of last week about this too, and I said it's not uncommon when somebody's hired that you partner them with a mentor or something like that. And somebody helps the new employee get oriented and doesn't necessarily get extra compensation for it. Your boss just says, hey, here's the new guy, help him.
Right.
So, that's kind of the discussion I had with him, but he has a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
And in fact, he did follow up with an email. Yeah, he said at the same time, if Jennifer needs day-to-day assistance, this was to the other planning board members, and he copied me on it. He says that if Carol Ogilvy can't be in town hall for the next month or two, I would like to ask Debbie to assist up to 6 hours a week and invoice the planning board. So that's where he's coming from on it.
I would not agree with that, and I'll agree with that letter as it's written, just get
Yeah.
that done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give
And like I
them
said, I think we
modifications.
discussed it too, where it's, you know, in the original, or in one of the emails that we received, it seems like some of their worry is her ability to operate a Zoom meeting. Well, that has zero to do with the training of a land use clerk. That's just someone getting used to Zoom, and if it sounds like there's two other people that also help operate those, so I think they already have some overlap helping to run those meetings. But to take someone's expertise on Zoom and say that that's a function of the planning clerk, I don't think that that's really something to hire out.
Right, and he, you know, brought the point of, I don't know if an exaggerated number or not, but, oh, we had 50 residents at the last hearing. I think that's an anomaly if they did, because in most cases, in the years I've been on the planning board, and you've been there, is, you know, you usually get the applicant, you might get a few abutters, but it's not unmanageable.
Well, this was the driveway
regulations.
and there
But still-
But it's an anomaly. In other
Right,
words,
yeah.
it's not every week that you have that,
Mhm.
you know?
That's true.
And again, I think even on your next one, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think on your next one, you're not gonna see as many people, because, I mean, you're gonna see the ones that feel wronged by it, but, I mean, you're talking 9 times, that's your developers. You
Yeah,
know, that's not your average. I mean, I could be wrong, I didn't dial in on the meeting, but I really doubt that you had that many individual citizens coming into,
not that many spoke, you know, it was mostly developers that spoke,
Right.
or people that are developing on their land in, you know, major ways.
Yeah,
There was 50 at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
But not all, you know, they're there in attendance.
yeah,
and-
I mean, I don't think, I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I really doubt you had John Q. Public, who already has a house with a driveway and owns his 3 acres of land and pays his taxes. I don't think
I
they
think there
would.
was some interest in that, because there was some, I don't know if you'd call it misinformation, but they didn't quite understand the wording of some of the regulations, and it was thought that everybody's driveways were gonna be made to come into compliance with the new regulations. So I think that was the major driver of that, and that's just not the case.
Right,
Yeah,
and I
Yeah.
think, and again, that's,
we could, but we are not,
no,
and
I don't,
there's not any way to do that, and there's no want to do that, so,
no,
Yeah.
and that's not it, no, it's to make sure that going forward,
yeah.
everything meets
So
the
that was the
standards.
most common question when that was heating up for the final 5 hours leading up to the meeting that it kept getting hit with, and it's just like, no, like, it's in, like, you're done, and even if it's a dirt one, like, and you wanna pave it, it still doesn't fall within major you know, like,
Yeah, and,
upgrade.
and really, I mean, from what I looked at through it, I mean, yeah, there's some changes and stuff, but for the most part, it's taking information that has been in many different documents
Hmm.
and getting it compiled into a single document that's clear and easy to follow, so that you don't have these issues of, you know, well, I didn't know that was there, well, that's in this document over here, well, I never went into that document because that was, you know, so it's just,
But I think the planning board is doing this, but they're doing it under their subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
The subdivision regulations have no impact on the individual owner that owns a lot already.
right,
Yeah.
oh, no,
So,
I understand
I
that.
mean, that is where they should have been focusing to say, you know, if we're gonna make this improvement, if A needs to do it, well, B needs to do it. And it should have been done was an amendment to the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, cause I mean, this is, and is it under subdivision, or is this if someone buys a single, you know, 3, you know,
As a
Guy-
subdivision.
yeah, well, the guy drives in town, says, oh, there's a plot of land for sale, I'm gonna buy it. Does it apply to him, or only to a guy who's developing five plots within a, like, he's building a subdivision and it's gonna sell the houses,
Yeah,
compared to, I'm coming in and gonna build a single, like, for
That's what I'm
example.
saying, if it's a single lot of record that was
Mhm.
not part of a new subdivision, then it doesn't apply, and that's why I was saying
Yeah,
the planning board should have approached it more of a zoning ordinance revision. Because, and where I thought you were going, and it's even more difficult to manage, is when somebody comes in and does a major lot subdivision and then goes and sells the lots individually. Because then at that point in time, it's like, well, you know, I bought the lot, why am I tied to what he was tied to?
Right.
And at that point in time, it's gonna be more of a management, issue.
yeah, cause you said, right, it's, again, I'm not developing a subdivision, I bought a piece of land. Right.
And I didn't know that he had that requirement as part of his approval when he got this subdivision approved, so.
Yeah.
Believe it. Yeah, it is funny, cause I know that they've said that, like the subdivisions primarily, but we have looked at the individual lots.
You can't do it.
Yeah,
They don't have the authority to do that. They have the authority to, revise their subdivision regulations,
mhm,
but they don't have the authority to revise it, to the zoning ordinance. Cause the zoning
I'll have to
ordinance,
compare the two, cause I wonder if it brings it in line with the zoning,
you know, the only way you can change the zoning
cause I
is
know
with
that
an ordinance.
they used other material to draft the subdivision driveway regulations.
Other material meaning from other towns. That's what they did. They got information from other towns on what their driveway regulations were.
Mhm.
And now they're, not imposing, but implementing those into their subdivision regulations, which that is their authority. But in order to make it part of the zoning ordinances, that would have had to been a zoning amendment for, voters to approve.
That's a whole lot different than I heard at the meeting. I don't
Yeah.
know what the next meeting will bring,
Mhm.
because it definitely was private.
Yeah, it seemed like individual,
Individual lots,
Yeah,
and if you were doing a certain amount of improvements on an individual drive, you had to meet these standards. That's why there was so many people there.
yeah,
mhm,
it's their authority on the planning board is only for their subdivision regulations, which is separate, totally separate from our town zoning ordinances. So if they wanted to have that apply to the zoning ordinances, they would have, somebody would have had to put forth a warrant article for the voters to vote on.
Now, in
Interesting.
asking out of my ignorance, in where is it listed? So if, okay, so I come in, there's an unencumbered piece of property, I wanna buy it, okay? So it's not, wasn't part of a subdivision, okay?
Yeah.
But I've got it, it's my frontage, I'm coming out to a town road. Where, is it zoning that has the regulations on how my driveway has to meet the road, or is that in a planning?
The only place that is right now is in planning.
Okay,
There are driveway regulations in our zoning ordinance, but nothing that stipulates that you need a landing area, that grade needs to be a reverse grade, it needs to be paved for the first 20 feet. Those are all part of their subdivision regulations.
okay,
And to give you a point is they did the Green Farm subdivision, turn around and they sell lots and look at the driveways that you have there. There are driveways that are steep gravel that come down to the road.
mhm.
So that in itself, they were bound by those requirements to have them paved and whatnot, but it was something that never got followed through on.
So I guess that's my question is, so this driveway regulation, even though they have it right now in their subdivision, that's really, they would almost have to have it in a subdivision plan, but then outside of the subdivision plan as well, if they want to have it apply to a single piece of property that is not part of a subdivision.
It would
So
have
a
to go
single
to the
person.
zoning ordinance.
So then it would have to go, so if they wanted to apply to a single non-subdivision piece of property,
Mm-hmm.
it would have to go to into the zoning ordinance and then be
zoning ordinance.
voted on by the,
Because
by the
right
town.
now, the planning board has no jurisdiction at all when somebody, you know, like you say, I come in, I buy this lot that was not part of a subdivision, and I want to put a house there. It never sees the site of the planning board.
Okay. That answers my question, thank you.
Glad Lou Alvarez and Lou Garino are watching, so they can also take some notes on this. We
Good.
can chat about it at the planning board meeting.
So other than the, back to the letter,
It's good.
it's good with the change that John
Yeah,
recommended?
yeah.
Okay, then
Yeah.
print it up then and bring it in, and
Okay.
we sign it.
You said you were good with it. You didn't agree with it, but you said you were good with it.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Can I interject a couple of thoughts in here?
Sure.
The RSA's came out with a thing where the state's got driveway regulations. I don't remember the number right now. But in there, down the end, it states that each of the towns must develop their own driveway regulations by the planning board. And thus, what the planning board has done was we had the subdivision regulations, which had a driveway regulation. And then we ended up working on the separate driveway regulations to meet the requirements that the state mandated. And we went back to the subdivision regulation to make sure that that everything that was in there matched what we just did for the driveway regulation.
Okay.
Was that a little confusing, or?
Not at all.
All right, for John Visser, this is separate, going back to earlier, I just needed to do a little bit of work where you were saying that it's the responsibility of the people to, make grade changes, to their property when a road is put in. Before you take that any further, refer to RSA 231:75, and then we could talk about that some more.
I don't know what RSA you're referring to there, Lou, but I do know,
231:75, which is repair of highways by towns.
correct, and there is an RSA, and I can't cite it as fast as you cited that one, but that the residences are responsible for maintaining and correcting their driveways that have any impact on a town road.
Go to that, the one that I just quoted, 231:75, and read through that. I'm not going to
Yeah,
waste our time here, just
right,
trying to explain it.
that's nighttime reading. When I wanna get myself to sleep.
Okay.
Alright, any other questions on, or comments regarding, roads?
No.
Driveways? Inspection fee adjustments?
Right, so we had talked about this a few months back, and it was, got kind of lost in the shuffle. But, under tab 3 in your book is the proposal that Rick Donovan had put together as far as making some adjustments in fees, and I think where we left it was, he didn't really change, a lot of them or any of them really significantly. And what I'd like to ask is, if you'd like me to go off and try to take a look at what other towns are doing, try to do some comparisons on how other towns calculate fees and what kind of fee range they're charging
Mhm.
on these things. And my goal is, time goes by quickly here, as we know, but my goal is, if we ever change, the fees on this and the transfer station, which is the next bullet, we should have to have a public hearing to discuss them. And I'd like to get this done so that we could hopefully implement these by April 1st if possible. So, if that's agreeable to you, that's kind of the goal that I've set for myself to get this done. but I just want permission to be able to go off and do this. I'm gonna work with Peter, because behind the building inspection fee is the transfer station fee, is the very last page in that section. And to me, when I look at that, it looks too complicated. I'd like to simplify it in group items, kind of like items together and charge, have a standard fee that applies to everything.
That makes sense to me. I think we talked about that, where one thing is like a
Yeah,
washer is one thing, and
Yeah, you
Yeah.
charge $10 for a chair, $15 for a love seat, $20 for a sofa. Maybe it's just $15 for all of them, or $20 for all of them,
Yeah.
whatever we think is gonna work. And I think with the transfer station, the sensitivity is if you don't wanna raise the fees too much, because then people will be discouraged from disposing of things properly, and they'll start just putting them on the side of the road, and DPW ends up picking them up anyway. I wanna have some sensitivity to that, but I also, with escalating costs for waste disposal, that we try to come up with something that maybe at least enhances our revenue stream a bit to cover some of those costs.
I agree 100% with what's been said. I would like on these here, since the town is being charged by tonnage weight, if we can factor that in when these numbers come up, because I will agree, there are times I see things here and I say, really, that much to get rid of that, but yeah, I can get rid of this, and it's disproportionate when you look at from a weight.
Yeah.
Right, and honestly, that's why in Wilton, we installed scales. Especially when you get into construction debris, because there's certain, somebody coming in with a truckload of asphalt shingles that they just ripped off of somebody's roof versus somebody that just has, wall board or something like that and some 2x4s. If you charge a flat fee based on volume,
Yeah.
you end up costing the town money, and that's why we got to the point where, because of escalating costs for disposal, that it seemed to make sense to put scales in, and that was not an inexpensive endeavor. And we ran into ledge, et cetera. What we thought was gonna be around $55,000 when we were done cost us about $74,000. And then you have to send 2 people off to be trained as, certified scale specialists. So there are some other expenses that are involved. But in the long run, then you can start charging more accurately per ton, so you make sure that the community isn't losing money. And what was happening with us is, because of the fact that we were charging by volume versus weight, is a lot of the contractors in the area understood where they could go to dispose of their stuff, because if they went to, Milford or some other place that was charging by the ton, it was more expensive to dispose of things. So we had to kind of realign our fees, and the scales helped us do that. But
Could you look at one other thing?
sure.
A few years ago, and I don't know if you were involved or not, we had discussed about using scales similar to what the state troopers used to weigh
So the portables.
trucks, the portable scales. And those were more economical. We were told that, those aren't allowed. And I never looked into it any further. But if that was hearsay and that it is possible,
Yeah.
that may be an avenue that
Okay.
could go down.
All right.
Yeah, because they must.
If they're
Be
good
governed by
enough
the
to weigh
same
a
thing.
truck on the road, I don't know why you can't use it to weigh trash, but.
Well, yeah, when it becomes, when you're a state trooper, right, when you're an agency like that, they probably have a pass on some of the regulations versus when we're doing it, we're looked at as a vendor, and you have a retail consumer, much like you would at the grocery store when you're going in and buying a couple of pounds of, roast beef. Your scale has to be accurate. So, that may be the issue, is those portable scales might not be accurate enough for the purposes that we're trying to use them for, but they might be accurate enough for the police to issue
Yeah.
somebody a citation for being overweight. So, so I'll look into that.
Maybe just look
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, I will.
The other thing, I don't know if it could help you, I do have a spreadsheet from last time we did fees, if you want me to
Sure,
send it to you.
Yep.
Save you the time of setting it up, just change the numbers.
that'd be terrific. And that is pretty much all I had for tonight. Other than, well, actually, I'd like to plan out our calendar for the year. Is that too ambitious to do?
I think we have to
I
wait
think you should
until
wait after,
after
the
the
election.
election.
yeah.
Okay. Because what I'd like to do is plot it out as, you know, always subject to change, but plot it out so that we can put a predictable schedule up on the website for people to know when our meetings are. And typically in the summers, you know, we go to every other week instead of every week, and, you know, I want people to be able to see that. So if they have issues and they want to get in front of us, having the schedule published way ahead of time, I think would be advantageous to the public.
Well, I'll be honest with you, and there was something recently, and I says, oh, I wonder what's scheduled, and you go to the town calendar that's on there, and it wasn't even there.
So we collectively in this building, you know that the website, and it's been getting tweaked in pieces, but we know that it's, probably needs some attention, maybe a little bit of an overhaul, and we're gonna try to make it more useful. You know, we have a request, for example, from the, you know, the broadband committee, you know, they wanna have their own webpage, so we've gotta get that set up for them as well.
Right.
And
That was-
it's just a
that was
good
on-
op-
That was on my new business list, so,
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
they've
mean,
reached out to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one of those things that, you know, it's time to clean it up. You know, when we went for the grant that Bob Romerl got for the election funding, you know, one of the requirements for the grant was the moderator had to have his own webpage. So I literally, you know, threw one together really quick, and I'm no webmaster, so I got it working and it's functional, but it's not as clean and elegant as I would have liked it, but it got us the grant, so, but we would need to clean things up and maybe look at reorganizing things, and honestly, some of the buttons that we have on the front for choices, you know, I don't know whether we should eliminate some of those and put new ones in, or just add to what's there, but I think there are some things that aren't easy to find. It's not easy to navigate when people are looking for certain information.
Mhm.
And, so that's,
Well, yeah, cause even the deliberative session, I can't remember if it was the agenda or the Zoom information that I was looking for last, like at the end of last week, you had to like go through numerous things, it wasn't right, like in an easy to find spot, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
so I think it needs some
we wanna
attention.
drive people to the website, but we also want them to be able to find.
Well, we do, and
what it
I
is,
have had people comment, just some of the small changes we've made, that, people have appreciated them, so, I think we're going in the right direction, but, you know, I'm hoping, you know, barring another COVID-like catastrophe, that maybe, after we get beyond the town vote, we'll, have, enough time in our schedule to be able to put more focus on it without being distracted by other things, but you just never know in this business.
I was gonna ask if there's a way that they can upload, more of the older town reports. I noticed that when I was trying to look things up, I think it went to 18, and I'm thinking. we
Right,
must be-
so, if we have them electronically
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yep.
we can certainly, convert it to a PDF and upload it to the website. If not, we have to find them, and I've had to do some research with that row of books
Yeah.
back there
No, I'm only
recently.
referring to those that we already have electronically.
Yeah, that's an easy thing to add.
Good.
If it's already in electronic form,
Yeah.
so, that's all I have.
Only piece I have is Meredith included me as the liaison for their system award management. That got buried on Carlotta's desk a couple years ago, and we had to go through and reapply and everything. And so she just asked that if we can. She said, right now you're the only one that has authorization
Yep,
to.
on my desk, it's a priority to get done within the
Awesome.
next day or two.
What is that?
It's just system award management. Like, if they get any grants awarded and things like that through the state, they have to have I guess like an account number or a user number in order to accept anything. And last time when we got awarded something, I can't remember what it was. The fire department was awarded something, and she went to go up, get it, and they said, no, we'll hold it for you, but you've lost your. I think it was the truck when we got the brush truck from the state. She couldn't accept it because our SAM had expired.
Yeah, it's an annual renewal.
Yeah.
I had to go through it last year, and it should be a straightforward process this year. We had some issues last year that I had to clean up,
Yeah.
but this year, and the only other change we need to make is Lori was the secondary contact, and obviously she's not here, so I'm gonna make Susan the secondary contact.
So is that just for the fire department or the
It's
town as
any FEMA related, any federal grant program has to go through that system.
Okay,
It's not just the fire
Yeah.
department.
No.
I mean, most of them are geared toward firefighting right now.
Yeah.
But it applies to anything we get from the federal government.
so that's their new website, that's sam.gov, I think.
Well,
it
yeah,
is.
sam.gov, but then there's FEMA Go, which you need to, which is linked to sam.gov. And so that's part of the problem is it's
Too
kind of a
many.
convoluted system, but that's the federal government for you.
Okay.
Then, with the cell tower contract.
Yep.
Where was that at? Cause I don't think we ever saw like a final.
So we haven't. So we had gone back and forth with their attorneys on the contract based on the changes that were recommended by our communications vendor, by Primex, by town council. So the latest, and I wanna say I probably sent it to their attorney, I wanna say late October, early November with all the final changes. And the expectations he set with me was, yeah, because we're coming for our building permit. And that's the last I've heard from them. And at that point, I told him, because of the situation with Old Peterborough Road, that since it had been discontinued, that he would have to work with the abutters to come up with a private road agreement so that they could have frontage, unless they wanted to use, that parcel they're talking about also has frontage on Old Ringe Road. But that's something that him and the landowner, the current landowner, would have to work out, because I'm not sure how all those details were worked when they went in front of the planning board to get their approval for the tower in the first place.
But I'm presuming that they have not received their final approval from the planning board.
Well, they did receive their final approval from the planning board, conditional upon our lease agreement
Okay.
with them being
Okay.
approved.
Okay.
And so one of the concerns that was raised is that such a time has gone by now and they haven't obtained a building permit. And because one of the conditions was within 12 months of the site plan approval, a building permit must be obtained. And I don't know what the ramifications of that is, but that's just something that come up at the
Well, you got to
planning
remember
board.
too. I don't know if you remember this. They've signed a lease agreement on another piece of property
On the other side of Turnpike.
on the other side of the highway.
Yeah,
So they may be looking to abandon the one and look at the other, which means they're going to have to come back before the planning board anyway. So they may just be letting it go.
It was
Yeah.
kind of the ball was in their court type of thing.
I would just follow up with
Yeah.
them and say, hey, what's going on?
Okay.
And remind them of that planning board approval. Granted, they can just, I'm sure, request an extension for that,
Right.
but at least.
But yeah, I was actually contacted by a local realtor that asked me where everything was, and I said, it's all in their hands. I said, everything's in their hands on the one, and the other one, they've never even put in requests on anything. I said, they've signed a lease on the piece of property, but that's it.
yeah. Because there's another aspect to it where it would help with some of the, like the remote, like remote learning and the broadband coverage in the area, you know, getting that up and running. So there's some interest in it from the citizens and the different
How would
boards.
that work with broadband?
Well, because you have the cell internet service off the, so maybe not broadband specifically, but
Oh,
Yeah, stronger
Yeah.
cell service helps you when you don't have internet on your phone. You can catch it. You can use your cell
yeah,
minutes.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends on who they have and who's going up on the tower, because it's the issue is the tower builder is just a tower builder,
yeah,
and then the cell companies lease spots on the tower from them. It's not like Verizon's building a tower or Sprint or AT&T's building a tower. This is just a tower company.
yeah,
So they could go, oh, we see a tower, and then there are people go,
there's
no,
nothing on it.
there's nothing
Yeah.
on it. I mean, it's great. It's just a big tower with no
Yeah.
cell service on it.
hmm
I gotta believe though, if somebody's gonna put up a tower, they have.
Oh, I'm sure they got people in
agreements.
line,
Yeah.
but it's
yeah.
one of those things. I mean, how many times? I mean, you drive on 119 or 202 in Ringe. You drive it, you can see the cell tower. You look at your phone, you got no signal. You know, but you can see the tower. It's right behind where they store the.
Not your,
It's not my servers, but I mean, it's right behind that where they store the My boxes. But it's just funny. You drive right past it. You look. You got one bar. And you can see the tower. You know, but that's the same thing here. You come downtown hill. You can see the tower, and you look at your phone. You got no signal. You know, the tower that's off towards Mason.
I don't know, I look at them, I've got a signal.
Well, that's because I'm guessing your company probably has what, AT&T or Sprint.
They got different ones.
Yeah.
I've got the, AT&T.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's what I have.
Yeah. Years ago, I signed up for Sprint because Sprint and AT&T were actually owned by the same company, and they're like, yeah, it's going to be here, and everyone owns it. And I bought that. Never got a signal.
I've got US Cellular and Sprint.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I have Verizon. And
Yeah, Verizon was another one I had, and
Yeah.
then,
I just have an extender at my house, so I'm fine.
yeah, that's what I ended up putting in.
Yeah. Because everywhere else in the country, Verizon works great. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Right, anything else?
Anything?
Oh, I was,
Since you took time out of your schedule.
disappointed to hear meet the candidates night was, when is it?
It's the 23rd.
2 weeks from.
And I leave for vacation on.
I've got one last thing.
Sure.
RSA 23613, Roman numeral 5, goes into the towns having, and the planning board having control over making the driveway regulations.
So what's the point, Lou? It still needs to be part of a zoning ordinance, unless it's part of a subdivision regulation.
No, this one is for all others outside of a subdivision.
Correct, and if you do that regulation, the only way it can be enforced is if it's part of a zoning ordinance. In order to get a zoning ordinance, you have to put a warrant before the voters to vote on it.
Read the reg,
Okay.
and the zoning board is not mentioned there, the planning board is.
It's not the zoning board I'm referring to, Lou. You need, in order to make a change to the town zoning ordinance, not the zoning board, to the zoning ordinance, the only way of changing that is via a warrant article.
And I took the time to briefly read through the other RSA you sent, and one of the
He's quick.
one of the first I read quick. One of the first pieces under when you get to Roman numeral 1 or section I or whatever it is, it states that if all that only applies if you're going outside the town's right of way. So as long as you're only working within the town's right of way, none of that applies. But people can still come and talk to the board, but at no point does it really say that they're required to pay for anything. It just states that they can file grievances.
Correct.
So, but as long as we're only maintaining, repairing, fixing roads, existing culverts, things like that, and they're maintaining within the town's right of way, none of that applies. So. Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.